Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest. I'm here today with Bill Spearman and Scott Grayson. They are both from the American Public Works Association. Bill Spearman is the 2019-2020 president, and Scott is the CEO. So obviously, coronavirus is kind of the big topic, and it's constantly dominating media headlines right now. How has APWA adapted to this time, and what are some things you've been doing as a result of this pandemic?
Well, I'll start and I'll let Scott address how our staff's been reacting to it because he is the chief executive officer and is responsible for our staff. From a membership standpoint, we've had to cancel our two big events for the year. In May, we always hold our North American Snow Conference. And that's an event of several thousand snow fighters and emergency management folks to get together. The other is our Public Works Expo, PWX, that was scheduled for New Orleans later in August. Both of those we've had to cancel, which really has affected our primary education as we typically provide it. However, we've really stepped up our monthly, weekly, almost daily information stream to our members. We've had with our Big Cities County Forum that had several hundred folks actually attend, not just from big cities, but just to find out what the big cities were doing. We've established a COVID-19 section on our website where people are able to go in and put best management practices and other things and even ask questions, because that's one thing about APWA. It's really a network of professionals who are very happy to share information. It's the old, what I call the case method, copy and steal everything, because it really works well in that there's no, the pride is in ownership, but the pride is also in seeing other people use those kinds of things. We're having next week, we're having a virtual snow conference with some certification classes for our snow fighters. And so we're doing these kinds of things, and Scott has staff and he can talk about our education department and really some of the things that they're looking at in the future to supplement going forward to PWX for next year, which will be in St. Louis also in August. Scott?
Thanks, Bill. Great opening. We just about second week of March, we had our whole board of directors in Washington. We have an extensive advocacy program there. We speak about a whole host of issues up on Capitol Hill. Water is one of them, obviously, emergency management, and transportation as well. And we had our board in there, and this is when all of the news actually broke. And that week was an extremely active week. It went from being up on the Hill, having meetings with members of Congress, no longer handshaking. It was an elbow bump. And by the end of the week, we had to, as Bill said, cancel our North American Snow Conference because the governor of Ohio had imposed a ban on gatherings of 100. And as those weeks went on, every state, every county, every city started implementing their own rules. And we really watched it, but okay, where is this heading? Would we have to cancel PWX as well, which was scheduled for the end of August in New Orleans? And as it happened, the venue where we were planning on holding our meeting is and was being used as a hospital. And so we had weekly meetings with our board of directors. And I've worked at other nonprofits, and we've got the best board I've ever worked with. And I'm not surprised because most of them work in public works. So they're very responsive, they're agile, we can kind of move on the fly, whereas most nonprofit boards are slow, lethargic, bureaucratic. And that's helped a lot. So we've just rolled out a lot of really great, valuable educational offerings. And one of which we're looking at right now, a lot of groups are implementing virtual meetings. And that means a lot of different things. You can use Zoom all the way to the very high end interactive virtual conferences with expo floors, where you can have an avatar and kind of float around and look at the expo floor. We're looking at implementing a thematic monthly experience. And what that means actually is 1 month might be on water, but it's not a one-shot thing. It's throughout the whole month. We will have expert speakers on all aspects of water, solid waste one other month, UPRO other months, whole host of public work practices, and then also encouraging people to get certified. When people are working at home now, it's a lot easier to have online learning.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are some of the things we're working on right now.
Yeah, so you guys touched on this already a little bit, but it seems like you're really engaging with your membership a little bit differently with coronavirus going around. How have you, for one, adapted to that? And what learnings have you taken from that you'll probably use moving forward?
Well, from my perspective, if we're smart, we will use this as an opportunity to set up our programs for many years to come. We realize that the new normal is definitely not the same normal that we experienced on March 10th and 11th of this year as an association. And so to really meet the needs of our members and also to meet the needs of the new members that will be joining our association in the future, we need to have a modern way of delivering information. We've already seen other conferences around the country. They're slowing down these big, large meetings. We don't know what they will ever look like again. So if we can be agile and create some information and actually be testing it during this time that we're in to see what really reacts and what our members really, say this is a great way of doing things, that really gives us that roadmap for the future. And so I'm really excited that, it's taking the lemons and making lemonade, but it's really looking at this as an opportunity to take the next step in the association and the membership engagement world. And as a member who's been a member for many, many years, I find it very exciting that some of the things we're doing, we wouldn't have done if we had not been forced to by this pandemic and the reactions to the folks. So I'm really excited about the future and looking forward to getting the feedback from our members, as well as the feedback from staff and Scott to say, okay, this worked really well, or this didn't work well. So it kind of gives us that focus. So it's almost a testing ground, if you will, to see what the future will look like.
Yeah, it's nothing,
there's
nothing quite like an emergency. Oh, sorry. There's nothing quite like an emergency to change your priorities and force you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't have done.
Correct.
That's exactly right. And I would pick up on that from a staff perspective. I meet with colleagues of mine who run other groups like ours, and there's a wide range of comfort level with allowing staff to work from home. And we had our staff teleworking a week before we even had to, based on the stay-at-home order. Our staff has really stepped up. I'm seeing incredible entrepreneurship, and people are being extremely creative. To Bill's point, everybody truly is making really sweet lemonade out of sour lemons. And that's why we're rolling out a lot of these new products and services. Right from the start, Bill and I communicated through blast emails to all of the membership. And then we also did something which we hadn't ever, which was held a Zoom meeting with all of our regions. We're arranged by 9 regions, and underneath each of those regions, we've got 63 chapters and 97 branches. And it was a really great way to engage in real time with all of our leadership all over North America and talk about best practice. How will we move forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you're talking to your membership, what are some of the challenges that they are relaying to you, as these are difficulties that we're facing right now and they're looking for solutions to those realities?
Well, I'll start, and Scott also in his working, he can follow up a little bit. I think the biggest thing is just adapting to the social distancing issues. I mean, our workforce is a workforce that works together. They traditionally would come together in the mornings for almost a roll call, if you will, to get their assignments, so forth. And so, you know, having the right PPE for they to stay safe, the number of people in a vehicle, even the interaction with the public, making sure that they are helping keep the public safe. Because, you know, it's kind of like the Marines say, you know, we want everybody to come back, and the gunnery sergeants are working to say, you know, you got to do this, you got to be careful, but we want you back. It's the same thing with the public, because these are public servants. I mean, whether they're picking up garbage, whether they're patching potholes, cleaning streets, or other things, they're dealing with the public. And sometimes this is the only folks the citizens see, because they've been cooped up in their homes. And suddenly there's a person that comes by once or twice a week. You know, I'm going to go wave to them. I'm going to give them a thank you note, but making sure that they are also keeping those folks safe. One thing that we have noticed in the water wastewater industry, we've got a lot of small cities and counties and other utilities that are members that have maybe one licensed operator. So what's going to happen if that licensed operator gets sick? You know, we've seen things like people actually living at the plants, getting cots and other things. So they're quarantining in place at the plants, so they won't have that interaction with other folks. But that's something that, you know, it really points out the need to make sure that we have those kinds of plans. Because there's one thing for a hurricane or a fire or other typical natural disasters, but this is something we have never faced before to the degree in this country. And so it's a total way, and we've got to look at this now and use our mitigation efforts coming forward to say, okay, we've got to have a backup plan for these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And I'd add that forever, public works have really been first responders. We haven't really spoken about it in that way.
100% agree with you.
Yeah, and so right now is a perfect time, you know, to speak about it even more so. We held a virtual congressional briefing yesterday, speaking about with Hill staff and members of Congress logged in online, and we had some panelists, and all of them spoke about they are the first responders out on the street, keeping everyone healthy, you know, wastewater, clean water, solid waste removal. And the other thing that they picked up on, which was a really great point, I thought, was they use the word normalcy a lot, meaning without public works, life in this period especially would not seem normal. And the fact that you can wake up in the morning, flush your toilet, have clean drinking water, have sewers working, have your waste removed, it is one of the most important things we think right now to creating normalcy right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's at times it can feel like an afterthought. I think in the industry itself, it's really well known that we're always trying to push like, hey, we're very important. You just don't see us,
Right.
and it's almost just like an invisible thing that's just taken for granted. So
exactly.
Yeah. So what's kind of surprised you the most about this pandemic? I mean, you mentioned Bill that some of those facilities where they have people living on site just to make sure that they're A, staying healthy, and B, are keeping things running for their communities, which to me, that's just, I shouldn't be surprised because dedication in this field is pretty high. But could you speak a little bit to that?
Well, we had a big city county forum a couple of weeks ago with folks from Houston, Phoenix, Atlanta, and LA County. And one question that we asked them is, how is absenteeism there? Because I mean, that's something you always worry about, you know, and the key that everybody said to the person was, our absentee rates are cut in half or even more. People want to come. They see that this is a public service that they are providing, and they're dedicated. There was one gentleman in DC. He lost his son the day before, and he was at work at 5 o'clock the next morning because it gave him a sense of normalcy. And I think normalcy works, you know, in two directions. If you're sitting at home, you know, you get kind of bored, you start worrying about things. But if you're out there doing something and doing something important, the employee feels that sense of normalcy that then transfers over to the public and others. So it's that comfort, you know, because, you know, a garbage man's going to keep on picking up garbage, a doctor's going to keep on doctoring, a nurse is going to keep on nursing. But, you know, the public works folks are going to keep on doing what they're supposed to do. And as Scott said, you know, that's the people that the public sees. They're suddenly not the invisible people. They are the visible folks.
Yeah, the big cities county forum that we held recently, we received a lot of feedback afterwards about how great it was and uplifting. And I think that was the biggest surprise. People could be very negative, woe is me, scared, the unknown, but definitely in our world of public works, I've not met one person who works in public works who has I'm scared, a woe is me attitude. It's how do we serve the public now? How do we keep building our infrastructure projects? How do we get out there and help others? Last week I went on a public works ride along. Usually it's a police ride along, but what they were having in Crystal, Minnesota was a birthday brigade. And so police, fire, public works had their big trucks. And we went through probably 8 square miles, families that have young kids. And actually there was an 85-year-old can ask for somebody to stop by and wish them a happy birthday. So we had big road signs that had lights illuminated, happy birthday. You know, and to see the smiles on families and young kids and older 85-year-old people was great in this era. So public works is definitely part of the whole equation of really serving the whole community right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that you noticed I had quite a big smile on my face when you're telling that story. So even I like that one.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I do appreciate you guys taking the time and everything today. You had mentioned some of the programs that you have going on. Where can people go to learn more about those programs and get some more information?
Definitely the starting spot is apwa.net.
Okay.
And that's a great starting spot. That's our homepage. And right from there, you can reach all of the COVID-19 related resources. We established within a week of the outbreak an online discussion group so that people could share best practices, ask questions. There are and were so many unknowns, but with you know, the United States as large as it is, with a wide range of city, state, county, doing all kinds of, you know, we've got nearly 600 practices within public works. That's something that not everybody realizes, from airports, beaches, obvious, you know, water, roads, bridges, but a whole wide range. And so people need that outlet, you know, to share and also ask questions.
Yeah.
And in that, we also have our information about our technical committees. We have 10 technical committees that cover everything from asset management to water resources and leadership and management. Yeah. And so there's a lot of good information that both the public and the membership can get off of those websites and those sections in the website. So I would encourage folks to want to learn more about us, contact us. We're more than happy to invite you to things and let you know what's going on. We worry about each other, and we're grateful for publications like yours. As I told you before we came on the air, that, you know, I read it, I see it, and it's great to see what Bob Crossan really looks like versus the name headline of WWE. So, but anyway, really appreciate this opportunity to be with you, and please contact us again. We hope to see you at some of our meetings, either virtually or in person, and hope to be able to meet you in person sometimes.
Yeah,
Thank you
that
so
would.
much.
Yeah, thank you for your time, and I look forward to those days as well. And I'll make sure to include some links to the stuff that you mentioned in our description for the video as well.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you
it,
for your
Bob.
time.